I knew I wanted to be a mechanical engineer after this summer of my freshman year, because I had done two other engineering majors freshman year, and neither one seemed to fit very well. And I enjoyed the idea of the creativity and general broadness that mechanical engineering offered. Felt like I could explore it however I felt. Well, I was a chemical engineer for most all of freshman year. Made the determination I was not good enough, nor did I care enough to do orgo. So I knew I had to switch. I did electrical for a little bit, but some of the electrophysics weren't really up my alley either. So I moved to the mechanical. The summer after my freshman and sophomore year, I worked at the same place. I worked up at a camp in Minnesota that I'd been to for many years. And that was a fantastic experience. You get a lot of really interesting experience when you're in charge of other people's children for months on end. And then this past summer, I worked as a controls engineering intern at a company in Chelmsford called Brooks Automation that makes robots for the semiconductor industry. And that was it was a fine job, I'd say. I think, with any engineering internship, you're going to get it's going to be a little dull at times. You're really doing all the grunt work, but it was a very cool industry, so it was a good experience there as well. I guess I would say that a internship in engineering is very useful, and everyone should have at least one. Going to give you a real feel for the work environment and for what you may actually be dealing with. But at the same time, I would not recommend getting nothing but engineering internships. They aren't very real-world experience, and you really would miss out on a lot of other big areas of life that you can really grow into, I'd say. I'd say my favorite class was probably ME80 with Professor Messner, just because he teaches a class in a very unique way, in a manner where he really feels like he wants to connect and really make material that is very complex, very accessible. And the class is just really laid out very well, and I'd recommend it to anyone to take it with Professor Messner. My favorite project, I'd probably say it's one I'm kind of really, it's really dominating my life right now. That's kind of more, I really enjoy the projects I'm working on, not really the ones I finish as much. So the 3D printer I'm building for the Kaplan department is probably my favorite right now. It's a really big scale project that I've kind of been working on since last January, really only started this semester, and it's really making me feel like I have to organize myself and set my own deadlines in a way I hadn't before. That's kind of exciting in some way. I'd say my greatest challenge was probably sophomore year, first semester, really. I had a lot of really hard classes. I was in the process of joining a fraternity at the time, and I was in a fairly demanding executive board position for the ski team I'm on. Slept like 5.5 hours every night that semester. And it was a semester where I also really didn't feel very secure in the decision I'd made to be a mechanical engineer, and I hadn't really felt much excitement for a lot of the work I was doing. And I think that's indicative of many engineering majors, perhaps. Their first semester, sophomore year, you're really getting through a lot of those intro courses. Those ES courses have their many acronyms, none of which are pretty. But I'd say to push through. I don't know. It was one that really got through and got to the projects, and you can really find a couple friends in your major, and it can really make it worth it. My advice would be to not stress out so much. Classes are important, and you should really work really hard in them, for sure. But at the same time, don't let that get in the way of experiencing, something that you don't have a whole lot of time in. And I'd say, as a freshman, I didn't really struggle in that area per se, but it's an area where you really have to find your work-life balance, and it's not an easy one to hit on. I mean, obviously I took some class I didn't need to as a chemical engineer, and those would be cool to take back, but I don't know, it's like a broader breadth of knowledge at that point anyways.